Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's webinar. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to connect to your audio, and then just to let you know as well that the meeting is being recorded. If you could make sure you are on mute, I would be super grateful. And also, if you want to turn your cameras off as well, that's not a problem. Feel free to do whatever. And before we start, just to let you know as well, if you do have questions as we go along, do just put them in the chat box and we'll come back and answer them when we've finished, because we're on a quite time schedule, and we want to make sure that we get through everything that we want to share with you this evening, alongside making sure we can answer some of your questions as well. So thank you so much for joining us this evening on World Menopause Day. We are going to share with you this evening some really simple steps that you can take to help manage your menopause every single day. So before we start, I'd just like to introduce myself. I am Sue Thomas. I'm a wellbeing coach, and I empower women to break their addiction to sugar. And I do that through a number of ways, but mostly I support predominantly menopausal women to help them understand how they can balance their hormones by removing sugar from their diet. And I'm joined this evening by two other fantastic professionals, Nikki Bevan, who is a life coach and sugar cravings coach, and she's going to help you understand how you can master your mind around the menopause. And then also the lovely Kelly White, who is a fantastic menopause and yoga teacher, and she's going to help us understand what techniques we can use to help kind of relax our mind, or relax our bodies, and the right kind of exercise that we should be doing through menopause. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. We do really appreciate it. And without further ado, we're going to get going. So this evening, let me just make sure I can move my slides on. There we go. On World Menopause Day, I first of all am going to share with you 3 facts that you need to understand to live a full and vibrant life, and to not be frightened of menopause, but to understand how you can work with it, basically. So first of all, let's just understand a little bit about our hormones and how they work. So our hormones give instructions to our cells to basically communicate with the rest of the body. So our hormones, there's lots of different types of hormones, and those hormones basically are either steroid hormones or they're protein-based hormones. So steroid hormones are predominantly estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, the ones we would know as our sex hormones, and they require essential fats and vitamin D for their production. We don't get enough vitamin D in the Western world, also particularly in this country, because of the weather that we have. And also we have been told for years to avoid fat because it's bad, and so we don't consume enough fat in our diet as well. And I'm going to talk you through that in a little bit more detail as we progress. And then we also have protein-like hormones like insulin, which is our blood sugar hormone, growth hormone, which helps us to go to sleep at night, thyroxine, which some of you might know, because one of the first symptoms of hormones going out of alignment is our thyroid levels tend to go out of alignment, and they need complete protein. So they need us to be eating a really kind of full protein-rich diet, not a protein-dominant diet, but one that has all the complete proteins in it. And again, we'll talk through that as we progress. And all of these hormones need a healthy liver. And that is going to be something that comes through all the way this evening in terms of understanding why it's so important to love your liver. Sorry, I can't get my slides to move on. Apologies for that. So let's just talk about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So estrogen is the primary female sex hormone. It is the hormone that is released or causes the release of other hormones to then ensure that an egg is released. Progesterone is what is released when the egg is released. Progesterone is released at the same time. And estrogen and progesterone are like the yin and yang of hormones. Estrogen is an excitable hormone. It can, if it's dominant in the system, can make us feel really sort of a bit hyperactive, a little bit irritable, a little bit kind of not particularly content. And progesterone is a calming hormone, and that allows us to really keep everything under control, stay on a level when progesterone is at the right level. And then testosterone is a hormone that we really do need. We have about 15% compared to men who have a lot more testosterone, but we need testosterone for good health. We need it for bone strength. And a lot of women, as they pass through menopause, do have a real disparity of testosterone. So some of the symptoms that come when testosterone is high in the system can be things like sort of slight, a little bit of hair on the chin, a little bit of thinning of hair, and maybe just, you know, kind of a little bit of weight gain around the middle. So they are three really important hormones, and they need to be working in conjunction with each other. And unfortunately, in 21st century life, we are exposed to a lot of chemicals that mimic particularly estrogen. And I'm going to talk this through with you in a bit more detail as we progress this evening. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, the right balance is really important. They are all manufactured, or the raw materials for them all are manufactured in the liver. So having a healthy functioning liver is really important for the manufacture of those key hormones, but also we need our liver working effectively to get rid of the chemical estrogens that we are exposed to on a daily basis. So those chemical estrogens might be PCBs, they might be things that, you know, like the on the lining on the inside of water bottles and stuff like that. They might be chemicals that we consume from that we breathe in from cleaning fluids, all that kind of thing. And they're chemical estrogens that basically mimic estrogen in the body. They lock into the estrogen receptors on the cells, and they scramble the message that the body is being sent, or that is being sent to the body around how our hormones should be balanced. So having our liver working effectively to clear those chemical estrogens out of the system is really, really important. And unfortunately, in 21st century life, our liver doesn't work as effectively as it should do because of the chemicals we're exposed to, because of the types of foods we're now eating, because of the amount of sugar that's in our diet, etc., etc. And we'll explore that in a bit more detail as we progress. The female menstrual cycle happens over 28 days, usually around that amount of time. Estrogen rises in the system. There's actually 3 types of estrogen. I'm not going to go into them tonight. There's 3 types of estrogen that are important for different stages of our life.
Yes.
Oh, could you just make sure that you're muted? If you're not muted, could you just make sure that you are, please? Actually, I'm just going to mute you, Karen. We could hear you sneezing.
Sorry.
So we have a rise in estrogen in the first kind of 12 days of our cycle, and that rise in estrogen sends a message to our pituitary gland, which is the kind of conductor of all our hormones. It's the conductor of the orchestra as far as our hormones are concerned. And it sends a message to the pituitary gland to support the release of luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. And those 2 hormones then activate the production of the egg that comes down the fallopian tube. The egg is contained in a sac called the corpus luteum. That is the first place for progesterone. The corpus luteum is a sac full of progesterone. And if fertilization takes place, then progesterone stays high, and a whole series of things, a cascade of other things happen. But we're not here to find out about pregnancy. We're here to find out about menopause. So if fertilization doesn't take place, progesterone drops, and then we have the whole cycle again. We have a bleed, and the whole cycle starts again. So that is the female menstrual cycle. Now, as far as menopause is concerned, we do get to a stage in menopause where actually we're not releasing that egg anymore. So we're not getting the progesterone, which is the calming hormone. We're not getting enough progesterone in the system, which can then result in the irritability and the kind of mood swings and stuff that we might get as we go into the menopause years. So we have some months where we don't ovulate, some months where we do. You might feel that ovulation and a little bit of discomfort as you go into menopause years, a little bit of discomfort in where your ovaries are, that kind of thing. That is a sign that there is menstruation, that there's ovulation taking place. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Menopause as a word didn't really exist about 150 years ago because we didn't have menopause. There were a number of reasons for that. One is we didn't have the length of life cycle that we now have, but also we were having our children younger. So when we were getting to the menopause years, we were in a place where we could actually retreat and look after ourselves. And that doesn't happen now because most women are having children later. and the teenage years kind of hit the same point as the menopause years. There isn't that opportunity to be able to retreat and look after yourself. And so menopause symptoms are coming to the surface more and more. But more than ever, it's to do with the fact that our liver is really overstressed as far as our 21st century life is concerned. So as we age, our hormones rise through our teenage years. They stay, they sort of plateau out during those fertile years from kind of late teens all the way through to our mid to late 40s. And then they drop off quite significantly. And it's the drop off, the quite significant drop off, that can really have an impact as far as our menopause symptoms are concerned. So you will be familiar with the classic symptoms like hot flushes, night sweats, possible weight gain, maybe low mood, but then there's lots of other symptoms as well. Dry eyes, reduced stamina, brain fog is one that's a really strong, seems to be really strong in a lot of women these days. Hearing problems, joint pain, digestive issues, anxiety, palpitations, all of these are just wonderful symptoms of menopause, but actually symptoms of menopause that you can really manage. So I'm going to hold my hand up here now and say I'm 53, and I've always set this intention that I am never going to have a menopause symptom. I think I probably did have a few last month when I was a little bit kind of like, my mood was a little bit low and I couldn't understand, and I was trying to lift myself back out again. But I'm absolutely determined that I'm going to manage my menopause completely naturally. And you absolutely can do that if you know exactly what you need to do in terms of how to support your body systems that allow you to move through menopause naturally. And menopause is a natural life cycle that we should be going through. And we want to go through it as naturally as possible. It's not something that we should fear, it's something that we should be embracing, but we can manage it if we know what to do, basically. I'm just going to share you the 3 facts with you to help you understand how you can manage it naturally from a nutritional point of view, from a physiological point of view, from the body's perspective. So we've already mentioned the liver. We also need a healthy intestine. And in fact, there was a really interesting piece of research that came out today for World Menopause that the Zoe study released. And they said that there's quite a lot of change that happens in the gut microbiome when women go through menopause. So one of the symptoms often that I see in clinic is women struggling with bloating. And this is because the intestine really starts to, the microbiome and the makeup of the bacteria in our intestine really starts to change. And we need the intestine and liver working really closely together, because particularly when the liver is detoxifying all those chemical estrogens we're exposed to on a day-to-day basis, it needs to send them to the intestine, and it binds with fibers, and then it removes those estrogens out of the system relatively swiftly. If our intestine is not working effectively, so you might notice in the run up to your cycle, as your hormones are changing, you might notice your intestine slows down a little bit. And if that's happening to you on a regular basis, what happens there is some of those chemical estrogens get reabsorbed because the waste is not moving through the intestine effectively. So there's some changes to our gut microbiome, and there's some changes, and our liver is under pressure. And those 2 things together can mean that the body's not clearing these chemical estrogens out of the system effectively. And then also our gut microbes need to be really diverse, because they create an enzyme that prevents some of those chemical estrogens from being absorbed. And if we don't have that really diverse range of gut microbes, then those enzymes aren't produced, and we start to absorb these chemical estrogens. So in 21st century life, our menopause symptoms are exacerbated by the fact that our liver and intestine, through no fault of our own in many cases, our liver and intestine is overworked and undernourished, essentially. We're not eating the right foods that will support the liver, and we're not eating the right foods that will support the gut microbiome. So what can you do to support your liver and your intestine? Well, in Chinese medicine, the liver is a green organ. So the more green foods that you can consume to support your liver, to help it detoxify, the better it's going to be, the more effective your liver is going to be at detoxification and clearing those chemical estrogens out of the system. And interestingly, all those green foods are also prebiotic foods that basically feed the good bacteria and help the bacteria in your intestine to work more efficiently. So we need lots of good pre and probiotic foods, lots of green food, lots of colours on our plate. Reduce the alcohol and the caffeine that we're consuming on a day-to-day basis that put greater pressure on our liver. so that our liver can work really effectively, and drink plenty of water, because that will help to flush through a lot of these chemicals that are sitting in the liver. And aim to reduce gluten and dairy as much as possible. I'm not saying cut it out forever, but just kind of reduce it down, because both of those two substances are really disruptive to the health of the gut microbiome. And you want all those microbes to be working effectively. You want your waste to be moving through your intestine effectively. And by drinking plenty of water, you can keep the motility of the waste working effectively. And by reducing alcohol and caffeine down, you can begin to support your liver more effectively as well. So one simple thing that you can do: fill your plate full of colors, drink plenty of water, and really try to reduce down some of those things that put pressure on the liver and the intestine. The second fact is to understand how to balance your blood sugars. Now, again, in that study that came out today, the Zoe study, it suggested in that study that there was evidence to suggest that as women went into menopause, it was harder to balance our blood sugars. So insulin, the blood sugar hormone, became harder to balance. And this is a really interesting point, because many women will find themselves gaining weight around the middle, having not done anything different when they go into their menopause years. They might still be eating the same. The slimming clubs that they used to be part of don't work anymore. And this is because their insulin is going out of balance. And this is because of some physiological changes. Now, unfortunately, in 21st century life, we're exposed to so much more sugar than we've ever been exposed to before, and often without us even really realizing it. And this can cause insulin to peak and trough, and it causes an internal stress. And if you've got this stage of your life that you're going through that also is disruptive to insulin balance, then we need to work even harder to really get our blood sugars as balanced as possible. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need to think about is eating protein, and eating protein first thing in the morning, because protein doesn't have a relationship with insulin. So it will help to get your blood sugars much better balanced throughout the course of the day. And if you can control how balanced your insulin is, then that's going to have an impact on how you get through your menopause. And if your menopause changes, if your hormone changes are impacting how your insulin is released, if you can control the foods that you eat that will control insulin better, you're going to be able to get through this period of time without the weight gain around the middle, and without the kind of sugar cravings and things that can come. We all have sugar cravings before a cycle starts, and that is because our blood sugars go out of balance. But actually, we can really manage this by eating the right foods. So always, before my period is due, if I have like sugar cravings, I'll just make sure that I'm adding more protein to my food to keep my blood sugars as balanced as possible. Again, filling your plate full of colors, like we did on the previous point. So lots of greens and reds and oranges, feeding the good bacteria, but also giving you energy, helping you to get rid of the afternoon slump where you might be tempted to reach for sugars and that kind of thing. Eating lots of good quality protein and lots of colors. Aiming not to snack between meals, because when you don't snack between meals, you can really bring your insulin levels down and keep insulin under control. Walking after you've eaten is a great tip to help bring insulin down. It burns up all the sugars that you've eaten, basically, so it can help to keep your blood sugars really well balanced. And eating by 7 o'clock is another crucial thing when it comes to menopause. And the reason for this is that if you're eating later into the evening, insulin levels will be higher when you go to bed. And when insulin is high, you don't produce growth hormone, which is a really vital hormone needed to go into a deep quality sleep. If you don't go into the deep quality sleep, there's lots of scientific evidence now to suggest that we eat up to 500 extra calories the following day, usually from sugary foods, which disrupts our insulin balance, our blood sugar balance even further. So just using some of these really simple tips around increasing the amount of protein, making sure you've got plenty of colors on your plate, aiming not to snack, moving as much as possible after you've eaten to keep your blood sugars balanced, can really help you to control your blood sugars, which does have a real impact on how well balanced your hormones are. So some of the other symptoms of just hormone imbalance, like polycystic ovaries, for example, depends on us having really balanced blood sugars. In order to get rid of that, we need balanced blood sugars. And it's exactly the same with menopause. Your estrogen and progesterone need your insulin to be really well balanced. And by eating more protein, filling your plate with colours, you can absolutely do that. You can really get rid of the need to snack on sugary foods between meals. And then lastly, the third fact is to detoxify, don't diet. So really think about supporting your liver, clearing all those chemical estrogens out of your system, and not focusing on the calories, focusing on the kind of foods that you are eating. So here what we do is we focus on having half a lemon squeezed into warm water first thing in the morning. That helps to flush the liver through. Lots of green foods. You can see that there's a theme going on here with all the green foods and the fibers and the colourful plate. And then focus on supporting doing a regular cleanse of your liver and intestine on an annual basis, basically, to clear all those chemical toxins out of the liver and to get the intestine working effectively. So there's some really simple things you can do in there. Making sure you're consuming lots of protein to keep your blood sugars balanced, making sure you've got plenty of colours on your plate to provide you with all those fibres, but to provide you with sort of blood sugar balancing benefits, making sure you're drinking plenty of water to wash your liver through and get your intestine moving waste through efficiently. There's so many things that you can do right now that will help you to manage your menopause symptoms on a day-to-day basis. And even if you feel like you're not in control, if you take these just small steps on a daily basis, can really begin to alleviate some of those symptoms that might be making you feel paralyzed to do anything on a day-to-day basis. There's so many other things that we can do, and I haven't got enough time to share them all with you tonight. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to Nikki, who's going to take you through one of the other bonus facts, which is to de-stress and control your kind of mind. And then we're going to talk to Kelly about how you can make sure you're using the right type of movement. So I'm going to stop my share, hand it over to Nikki, and I would suggest with Nikki, you are putting her on speaker view so that you can see her board behind her. So I'm going to stop my share and hand over to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Sue. Did you want to answer a couple of questions, actually, Sue, that have come in? So one of them is, can I ask how HRT products work, such as estrogen gels? Are they dangerous to use?
No, I would never say they're dangerous to use. I think it has to be on an individual basis. Unfortunately, with HRT, at some point you have to move away from it because you can't really stay on it forever. So it's actually so much better to manage the symptoms now, to get your liver working properly and to get your intestine working properly. It feels harder to do that now than it would be to put a patch on, but it will benefit you in the long term because you've still got to come off that HRT at some point. Estrogen gels now are made from yams, so they're a much more natural product, and there was lots of research done years ago, the Million Women study that suggested that HRT wasn't safe, etc., and that isn't the case now. HRT has moved on quite considerably. However, it's a personal choice because not all HRT works for all women, and actually I feel really strongly about empowering women to understand that HRT isn't the only solution, that if you take control and you start to focus on supporting your liver and supporting your intestine, you can really manage your way through menopause without having to resort to medication, essentially. So it's not dangerous to use by any stretch of the imagination, but it's got to be right for you, and it depends on your current situation. And when you say we should eat early, how many hours before going to bed? 3 hours. You need 3 hours before going to bed for your insulin levels to come back down. So that's why ideally you'd be going to bed at 10, so you'd have eaten by 7 in order to allow for your insulin levels to reduce back down. And I know that's not always possible for everyone. So in that case, I would always say try and have a bigger meal at lunchtime and then have something less in the evening, so that have something more protein-based and more vegetable-based, so that you're not kind of consuming loads of carbohydrates that are going to spike your insulin levels. So I'm very mindful of the time. I'm going to hand over to you, Nikki, and yeah, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. But I just have one quick question, Sue, and I'm willing to reduce mine to answer this because I always do this with you, because I practice fasting. So the way that I keep control of my weight is by eating. I don't eat until lunchtime, and I have an evening meal, and I really try hard not to snack in between, and most of the time I succeed. So then if I'm not having breakfast, then for me, it's very important to have the protein in my first meal. Is that right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if people aren't having breakfast, whatever their first meal is needs to be protein based.
Yeah, completely, because it just will allow your blood sugars to be much better balanced through the rest of the day.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Right. So good evening, everybody. My name is Nikki Bevan. I am a sugar cravings and life coach, and I help my clients to manage their mind, that voice in our head that we all have around our sugar cravings. And actually, the voice is continuously talking to us, isn't it? So if you've got me on the big screen, hopefully you have, because I'm a good old flip chart girl. Excuse my artwork. Oh, and the other thing you need to know is I do have a bit of a potty mouth. It's not my intention to offend. So it's just how I express sometimes. So please forgive me if I do drop a little swear word every now and again. So you're a human being, right? You have a human brain, and your human brain is phenomenal. It literally created you. And I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not going to go into your brain that deeply, but I simplify it right down, and I just work with two parts of the brain: the prefrontal cortex, which is your higher brain at the front here, and your primal brain, which is at the back. And it's your primal brain that generally is screaming at us most of the time. It's that voice that is constantly narrating our day. And most of the time, we don't even think to question what that voice is telling us. We just assume that when it's telling us something is awful, or we must eat all the sugar, or isn't this dreadful, or I should be different and I should be perfect, we just take that voice to be true, when actually, most of the time, it's talking bollocks to us. So I just want to tell you that most of what I'm going to refer to here is coming from your primal brain, but luckily for us, we do have our prefrontal cortex. Now, our prefrontal cortex is our higher brain. It's our modern brain, and it really gives us our best advice, only we don't listen to it. It enables us to think rationally, it enables us to think ahead of time, and it enables us to plan for the future. Whereas the primal brain is more like a child. It wants everything. It wants it right now. It wants to avoid any pain, and it always wants to seek pleasure. So we want to switch these two voices around. We want to get ourselves in the driver's seat, ourselves in control, rather than that primal brain of ours. So I'm not going to go too much into that now, but I just want you to have it in the back of your mind that this primal brain is trying to keep you safe. The other thing that I want to teach you, and this might bend your brain a little bit because this goes against everything that we've ever been raised to believe, but it is actually how the world works. So life gives us circumstances. Life gives us situations and events that we have no control over. Those circumstances are actually completely neutral. And what I mean by that is someone else could experience exactly the same situation, but have a very different emotion about it. The reason that's possible is because it's not until our brain gets involved and we have a thought, an opinion, that dialogue, and it's those thoughts that create your emotions. So the circumstance could be things like the weather, other people's behavior. It could be equipment breaking down. It could be illness or bereavement. It could be the menopause. So the menopause and your physical symptoms of it, so headaches, brain fog, memory loss, those hot flushes, the night sweats, mood swings, not sleeping, that is physical sensations that we're experiencing in our body. They are out of our control, and they are actually neutral. And what I mean by that is you have a choice as to how you interpret it emotionally. So your circumstances are out of your control. And the reality is we cannot actually control how long our menopause or perimenopause is going to continue. We don't actually have control, other than what we put in our mouth and what we think in our head. We don't actually have any control over what is happening in our physical body. But what we do have control over is what we make that mean, the thoughts that we have about it, which will therefore create an emotion within our body. So, for example, growing up, and your experience may have been different, but growing up, I kind of heard that the menopause was the end. Like I was useless now, and, it's all terrible and it was all awful. And so I sort of came towards it thinking this was going to be a really terrible thing to happen. But there are some societies in the world that embrace the menopause. This is when we become the wise woman. We become the elder of the pack. We've done everything that we've needed to do. We've had our children. We've done all the housekeeping. Now we get to be our wise version of ourselves. And oh my God, is that not a better story to tell? Really? So how we talk to ourselves, how we explain what we're going through makes such a massive impact on our emotional health. Depending on how we feel, our feelings drive our actions. So when we're feeling rubbish, what do? We eat, we overeat, we overdrink, we overscroll on social media, we overspend our money. And those actions give us a result, which ends up making us feel usually 10 times worse. So this is how the world works, whether you want to believe me or not. Circumstances happen completely neutral until our brain gets involved and we have a thought about it. How we think creates our emotions. Our emotions drive our actions, and what we do or don't do give us a result in our life. So just before I go on to the example of what this means, specifically to the menopause. See, I just had a brain fog moment. It's like, where am I going with this? I just want to explain the difference between a physical sensation and emotional sensation. So a physical sensation starts in the body and it sends a message up to our brain. So a physical sensation being a hot flush. A hot flush, our hormones out of balance, it is sending, maybe even a headache, it is sending a message up to our brain. That's a physical sensation. An emotional sensation, an emotional feeling starts in the head with a thought and sends a sensation down to the body. So there's a difference. How we deal with that is kind of the same thing. So whether you're feeling anxious because of a hormone imbalance, or whether you're feeling anxious because of a thought creating emotion, we can still deal with it the same way. We don't have to add more drama on top of it, because this is what we're doing at the moment. Your circumstance is your menopause symptom, and you might have many of them. For me personally, it was waking up. I would wake up feeling just dread. Some people might label that anxiety, but for me, it was dread. And I would get really irritable for no apparent reason. And, I'm a life coach. I know my thoughts create my feelings, but there was no reason why I was feeling anxious. So what did I then do? I would then think to myself, oh, this is awful. I would think to myself, it shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be this way. Because I'm perfect, right? I'm a mum. I want to love my children. I want to give my time to my husband. I want to build my business. We should be perfect, shouldn't we? Like, we put all this pressure on ourselves to be happy, joyous, calm, even all of the time. And when we're not and we have no control over it, for sure something must have gone wrong. So the first step in this process is recognizing when you're experiencing your menopause symptom, what are you actually then thinking on top of that? Because if you're led there thinking, this is awful, you're going to be feeling emotionally shit. So now not only are you feeling physically rubbish, you're adding the emotional pain on top. And when we try and resist that discomfort, we actually create more of it versus just going, right, this is happening right now. I'm safe. I can breathe. Because what tends to happen is when you're then feeling emotionally rubbish, what do we see you doing? You take the action of beating yourself up. You start fighting against what's actually happening. You start overeating, over drinking. Maybe you go and moan to your friends. And when we're moaning to our friends, we're not even experiencing the hot flush in that moment, but we've prolonged it because now we're talking negatively about it. So we tend to focus on the problem. We don't really focus on the solution, which gives us a result of creating more emotional rubbish. And we end up prolonging the symptom because the hot flush might have finished 10 minutes ago, but now you're moaning to your friend about it. And now we feel, emotionally hot because this shouldn't be happening. But the fact is, it is. The fact is, you can be led in bed dripping with sweat. And this happened to me for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I could have led there going, oh my gosh, this is awful. This shouldn't be happening. This is terrible. But I didn't. I actually led there in bed and I chuckled to myself because I was like, oh my God, this is just fucking weird. Like, I am soaking wet. I have never experienced this before. And in that moment, I had a choice. I could have made it mean a whole heap of emotional rubbish, or I could just accept what was happening. And actually, when we drop into acceptance and maybe even find a little bit of compassion for ourselves, then we're not adding emotional crap onto an already heated symptom. We don't need to add emotional heat on top of a hot flush. So Kelly's going to talk about our central nervous system and breathing in a minute, which is a perfect technique. So what I just want to show you is another option. I just want to show you that you have a choice how you think about your menopause symptoms. So let's take again your symptom. Let's take mine, my irritability. My boys are still being boys, my husband's still being my husband, but for some reason today that's just pissing me off and there's no reason for it other than my hormones being slightly imbalanced. So I could make that mean a whole load of crap about myself, or I can just put my hand on my heart and I can just say to myself, nothing has gone wrong in this moment. This is just my evolution as a woman. And actually, I'm going to be glad when all this is over because this is only temporary. And that just drops me into a little bit of compassion and a little bit of acceptance. And then what do I do when I'm feeling a bit more compassionate for myself and I'm feeling a bit more accepting? Well, then I'm giving myself a break. I realize I don't have to be perfect. I realize if my muscles are aching or I have a headache because my hormones are all over the place, I can sit on the sofa and give myself a break. I don't have to keep going. I don't have to be perfect. I'm not beating myself up anymore. I'm not overeating and over drinking because I'm comforting myself emotionally. We know the food doesn't work anyway. And I'm not judging myself. Only I can't even spell. But I'm not judging myself. I'm not moaning to my friends. I'm not prolonging my experience. I'm just accepting and compassionate. And that's going to give me a result of not making my symptoms wrong. Because this is an evolutionary requirement that we have to go through. So there are just two things I want to leave you with. If you don't listen to anything else I've said, please listen to this from your mind management perspective. Everything is temporary. That hot flush, that irritability, that moment of forgetfulness, the brain fog, the headache, palpitations, not sleeping, it is temporary. And you get to decide. You have a choice. And what I mean by that is you don't get to choose your menopause symptoms, but you get to choose how you feel about them emotionally. And you can choose compassion. And you can choose acceptance. And if you choose that path, everything will just calm down. It's then not such a big deal. So that's all I wanted to say. I feel like I've gone on a very quiet moment, but I'm going to hand you over now to Kelly, who's going to talk to you more about your central nervous system, about breathing, and about movement techniques that's going to help support your physical nutrition, like Sue has been telling you about. My management, Kelly's going to finish it off with movement. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Good evening, ladies. I'm going to share.
Oh.
You muted me, Sue.
I didn't touch anything.
The wrong person. Sorry, Kelly.
Nikki, it was Nikki that muted you, not me. We're only human.
Sorry, Kelly. Sorry.
Okay, girls. Good evening, ladies. So my name is Kelly and I am a mum of two. I've got two young kiddies. They keep me on my toes. I've been working in the fitness industry for, I think, 17, it might be longer than that, years. And I've loved my job and I still love it. The reason I say loved is because it was very different 5 years ago. My mind and body were all on the go all of the time. And the sheer amount of exercise and the type of exercise I was doing is putting a lot of stress on my body. So although from an external point of view, I looked athletic and happy, I felt exhausted and anxious all of the time. So I felt wired and tired, and I felt I couldn't give any more to anybody around me. And throwing, having kids into the mix added to that as well, as you can imagine. And I was noticing the similar patterns in the women that I was actually training myself, realizing that what I was offering wasn't what they needed, what they deserved. So this is what inspired me to enter the world of yoga and mindfulness, and adding that into my offerings. So bear with me while I play around with my screen to take it on. There we go. So what I want to cover are the physical effects of menopause, the nervous system, the bone density, and how the stress impacts your body and how your metabolism changes over this period of our lives. And then how we can help ourselves in the next chapter of our life. And it's not the end, like Nikki said, it's not the end, it's a new chapter. And just having the right knowledge behind us with the nutrition, the mindset, and then learning and understanding and listening to ourselves and learning about the right type of movement, and on the flip side of that, the rest as well that we deserve and need as well. So we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. So the transition from menopause can start around the age of around 35, and you might still have the monthly cycle and things are changing slowly. Feeling changes over time, and some people may not, but as Sue was mentioning, the estrogen and progesterone levels decrease. It happens over time, and slowly but surely that affects our body in everyday life. And I'm talking from a physical level here. The metabolism slows down, muscle mass decreases, bone density decreases. And in this phase of our life, we're also so very busy, whether we've got children, we've got siblings, partners, a house, the work, all of those things are added into the mix. So we feel, like we're juggling a lot of things. This puts a lot of pressure on our nervous system. And before I go on, it all sounds a bit doom and gloom, but we all know, well, I'd like you to hopefully come away from this sort of webinar, and it's not doom and gloom. We're arming ourselves with all the facts, and so that we can make informed choices about what our body wants, needs, and deserves, regards to movement and rest. So, beg my pardon, sorry. First time I've done this, girls. Okay, so bear with me. So we want to talk about the fight and flight stress response. So this is the body releases a surge of adrenaline and cortisol to help you escape that stress. So let's say you're running late for work, running for the bus, you need to get there quickly, so that stress is released, and that's a natural response, and that's needed. We do need that stress in those circumstances. However, as Sue was saying, again, in 21st century life, we have a lot of other stresses. So we've got the children, as lovely as they are, they can be quite stressful sometimes. Parents, house, worrying about all sorts of things, juggling everything. And then when it comes to movement kind of things, excessive cardio, if anyone was into long distance running or over exercising, can also put added pressure on the nervous system. So we may have heard of the word burnout, and it is a bit of a buzzword, and something to think about. You might think that your foot is on the pedal all of the time, and with all of the things that I previously mentioned. And if these stresses are not managed, then the body is in a constant state of stress, which is what we don't want. That's what we want to try and avoid. When the cortisol levels are high in the body, unless we do something physical, then all of that extra cortisol in the body gets deposited as fat around the middle, around our organs. So putting the two things, Sue and Nikki, that said, all the movement, the sleep, the stress management, the mindset, nutrition, hydration is all linked together. If we move well, we're likely to sleep well. If we sleep well, we'll probably wake up and eat better breakfast, lunch and dinner. Our mindset's better. We're just in a better place all round. So they're all interlinked. And then you have the opposite. So whether you want to call it the yin and the yang, I like to say that because I'm a yogi, but it's finding stillness. So you're finding the moments in the day to pause, to help the adrenal glands reset. So filling your day with joy in your day, just everything, do something per, 2 or 3 things a day that fill yourself with joy, buying yourself flowers, listening to uplifting music. I'm thinking of me here dancing in the kitchen. I know you do it too, ladies. I know you do it too. Dancing in the kitchen, using your best china in the kitchen when you have your cup of tea. Why save that for another day? Use it. Take a warm bath, wear colourful clothes, all of those things, make yourself feel joyous. Other things that you can think about are guided meditations, deep breathing, and yoga, Pilates, that kind of exercise. And the physical benefits from yoga and Pilates, you've got the mobility, flexibility, balance, strength, and obviously that restorative side as well to help, again, support the adrenal glands. So I want you to now, if you want to switch off your camera, you can. I want you to join me now with this breathing exercise. You don't have to have ever done yoga before. You're just breathing. It's natural. But I want you to sit with me. I am going to close my eyes because I'm going to get in the moment as well. But find yourself seated, tall, making sure that your spine is long. Take a nice little shoulder roll up to the ears, back and down, and think about lifting the front of your body from that pubic bone all the way up the front of your body, lifting up through the crown of the head. And then everything, the back of the body, relaxing the shoulder blades and letting the back of the body sink down towards the support that you're on, the chair, wherever you're sitting. Now take a moment to notice if you're clenching your jaw. And if you are, remove the bottom jaw away from the top jaw. Remove the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Close down the eyes if you haven't already, or maybe just take a soft gaze. And then notice if you're holding any tension in your forehead, perhaps between the eyebrows, the cheekbones, and let your skin be soft on your face. And now just notice how your body responds. Now take a moment to become aware of your breath. Perhaps notice where your breath is sitting in your body. Now, when we're busy, being busy, we tend to hold our breath in the upper part of the chest. Our shoulders are up by our ears. And I want you to start deepening your breath, breathing in through the nose, and noticing your belly expand as you breathe in. Breathing out through the nose. Taking these deep, mindful, soft breaths in and out of the nose. Sending that breath not only down towards the belly, but notice the side ribs and the back ribs expand as you breathe in. Noticing the shoulder blades fall away from the ears. Breathing in and out through the nose. And if your mind wanders, know that that's perfectly natural, but try not to attach any stories anything that may be passing by. So just nudge those thoughts to the side and bring it back to the awareness of your breath. So a couple more moments here. Breathing in and out through the nose. Being still. Being with your breath. Being with your body. And out of your mind. Take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Gently blink the eyes open. And just notice perhaps how you feel now to how you did maybe a few moments ago. And you don't need to jump on a yoga mat. You can do, I used to do that in the downstairs toilet in lockdown when my kids were driving me crazy. You can do it anytime, anywhere. So noticing how your body responds to the breath is powerful. It's simple. And you can do that anytime, anywhere. Now, I know I don't want to run over time, Sue, so do let me know if I need to speed up a little bit. So what can you do for yourself to help yourself moving forward? So with regard to moving your body, here are some suggestions, adaptations or additions, depending on what you do right now. So regards to body weight training, so things like swimming, cross training, rowing, cycling are all great forms of exercise for that cardio aspect. But when it comes to helping bone health and bone density, you want to have that heel strike against the ground. So you're looking at doing some body weight training or weight training with some dumbbells, perhaps twice a week. Your bones do respond to stress, so they need that impact. This will also help to increase muscle mass, which in turn will help burn calories at rest. Fat will just sit there doing nothing, but when you've got more muscle mass, more muscle tone, if you like, your body will burn more calories at rest, including all movement patterns, walking, squatting, lunging, rotating, pushing, pulling, and having all those movement patterns within your program, if you like. Thinking about cardio health, there's no need to go crazy here, no need to put the stress on the body. This can come, to 20 to 30 minutes, up to 3 times a week. Get a little bit out of breath, feel the burn, but not for any extended periods of time. And this is also individual as well. So if you do feel drained, then it's too much for you and perhaps too much on that particular day. So it is all coming back to listening to your body. Always finding the fun in exercise. It shouldn't be shouldn't be something that you don't enjoy. I had a friend, and I think she might be listening right now, actually. Lady girl I used to live with, I was training for the marathon. She said, how the hell do you do that? It's boring. She found ice skating. Ice skating was her thing. So it's about finding something that you absolutely love, whatever that might be, which will help you stay consistent, to help you give your cells the serotonin, the dopamine, the happy hormones, rather than the cortisol and the adrenaline. Taking a nature break, stepping away from the phones, computers, and finding your feet, feeling that connection between the ground and the nature. Scheduling in some rest. So you've got your movement, and scheduling in some rest is equally as important, and giving yourself permission to slow down, finding that balance between movement and mind. So as well as helping to calm your nerves, taking time to relax and looking after yourself, you can have a positive impact on the way you see yourself, treat yourself with kindness, and make sure you look upon yourself kindly. I am going to whiz through a few of these. The take-home message is that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Bring your awareness back into your body. You know your body more than anybody else does. So listen to the signs that your body is telling you or asking you, and respond to them kindly. You need to care for yourself to be able to care for others. And it's not selfish to fulfill your needs. So blocking off time in your calendar, for me time, it's essential to avoid that burnout. So bringing it back to more walking, movement each day, a combination of strength training and cardio up to 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes, and always coming back to that restorative, nurturing you time. And that can be as long as you like, and manage that as daily if you can. I hope you've come away with some great information. Thank you for listening. I will pass you back to Sue. So I'll stop my screen share. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. That breathing exercise was fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope now that you can see that it isn't just about one thing as far as menopause is concerned. It's about taking a real holistic approach to your menopause and focusing on what's going on in your mind and your thoughts, focusing on what you're putting in your mouth and how your body responds to that food. And then also the kind of movement, the kind of exercise, the kind of relaxation that you are carrying out on a day-to-day basis. It really is about putting yourself first. This stage in our life should be a stage in our life where we are prioritizing ourselves, not putting ourselves so far down the list. And so with your permission, we would love to share with you a really exciting program that we have just devised, the 3 of us together. We've put our expertise together, and we're going to share with you a program that basically, I'm just going to get rid of all the bits and pieces that are around that slide, a program that will help you to really start to guide you around better choices, around what you are thinking, better choices around the kind of exercise that you're doing, and better choices around the kind of food that you are consuming. This is our 21-day natural menopause reset, and it really is a natural menopause reset. If you are in that place where menopause is really starting to get you down, where you feel like these symptoms are out of control and you don't know which way to turn, and you need a helping hand, you need some accountability, you need some motivation, you need some support to bring you to the other side of this without feeling like it's the worst time of your life, and doing, as Nikki said, it's an opportunity to see this as a time when you can really step into your power as a woman and be, you've got all this experience and just be the person that you really want to be. So with this 21-day natural menopause reset, as I said, the 3 of us brought together our skills, and we are super excited to share with you this 21-day program. And basically, for the 21 days, you'll be focusing on your food, and the crap and the B is caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol, processed food, and anything beige. Predominantly, we want you to think about alcohol, we want you to think about sugar, and we want you to think about removing some of the processed food. So it's not overwhelming, it's just starting you moving in the right direction to really start to nourish your body. There is a nutritional supplementation pack. It's just 2 supplements that are very gentle that will help to support your liver and your intestine as part of this program. You'll get all the nutritional guidance and advice that you need. We'll be supporting you from a mind management perspective and helping you to kind of rewire your subconscious mind into into thinking that this is a more positive time. Kelly's going to share with us yoga and meditation sessions, lots of mindful coaching, mindful conditioning sessions. We've got masterclasses that we can share with you so you can really grow your knowledge. And we're going to have you in a WhatsApp group for support and accountability. So there's going to be lots of support within that group, lots of accountability every day. We'll be doing some little mini challenges to help you stay on track, and just sharing with you all the tips and tricks that you need to help you sleep better, to lift your mood and reduce your bloating. So it is a simple 21-day program that you follow that will get you to the other side of some of the menopause symptoms that you might be experiencing at the minute. And you'll get the expertise from the 3 of us for this 21 days. Support and guidance you need, the approach to get you through menopause, finding relief in this with this kind of gentle cleansing approach to support your liver and your intestine. And you'll come out feeling energized, vibrant, healthy and happy at the end of that 21 days. It's time to put yourself first. If your body is telling you that it doesn't like what's going on at the minute, if you're getting all these symptoms, you need to prioritize yourself, and you can manage it really naturally. Now, this program is the first time we've run this program, so we're doing it on a really special offer at the minute. It would normally be £199 for the 21 days, and that includes everything. But we are offering it to you ladies for joining us this evening at just £157. So if you want to know how you can really make a difference to your menopause and make a difference naturally, our 21-day menopause reset will start on the 31st of October. By Christmas, you could be in a completely different place. You could be feeling empowered, you could be feeling in control of your menopause symptoms, and you could really be making a difference. Without needing to visit the doctor to get that HRT prescription, you could actually start to take back control of what is going on for you. So if you would like to know more about that program, please do message any one of us. You will all be on here because you know one of us, to find out more about it. But I will be sending a recording of this webinar to everyone, so you can just hit reply on the recording email if you want to. I'll be doing that tomorrow if you want to find out more about the program. A really simple program to follow, but if you are ready to take back control, this is going to help you do this naturally without the need for medical intervention, and will just mean going forward that you are in a much better place. You won't have to go through those hormonal changes when you come off the HRT. Your liver will be working effectively, your intestine will be working effectively, your mind will be in the right place for success, and you'll have all the tools in your kit box to be able to get through this stage in our life, this natural life cycle stage, and come out the other side feeling completely empowered, completely vibrant, and just ready to take on the world, basically. So if you do want to know more about that, do just drop either one of us a message and we can talk you through it in a little bit more detail. So I am just going to check the questions. I hope you found everything that you needed from this evening. If you do want to know more to get in touch with us, and yes, it will be available to watch again. I'm going to be sharing it with everyone tomorrow once it's recorded, or once the recording is done. Let me just stop my share and then I can see the questions. Any other questions, please do put them in the chat box now. It just remains for me to say thank you so much to both Kelly and Nikki for joining me this evening. We really did enjoy sharing this webinar with you this evening, and hopefully empowered you to get some tools to understand how you can manage your menopause naturally. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We do appreciate your time. Hope you found that useful. If there are no other questions, we're 4 minutes over. We said we we're going to be an hour, so it was a lot of information to get in that time. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you, Nikki and Kelly, for joining me as well. And we will speak to you all very soon. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully we'll see some of you on the 31st of October. Really get that menopause touch and kick it into base, basically. So take care of yourselves and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.